watch this. Right, we are back with another resin art video, of course, because that's what we do on this channel. I'd love to branch into different things, you know. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see, you know, different. Most of you are here for the resin art. Maybe I can incorporate resin art into something else. Anyway, the other day I did a piece. I created a piece. I was just playing around. I was bored. And it gave me an absolutely stunning effect. And I'm going to show, I'm hoping, I'm hoping I can recreate it. You know, it's not going to be the same, but if I follow it step by step, I should be able to get it again. So I'm calling this one the Ethereal Flame. It is a really, really stunning effect. I'm just going to be using these two colors from my nail powder set. They're not numbered up. I number these up myself, but it's like a purple color and red. Most of you have already got these from the many videos that I've done using these. I've still got the same set that I bought a couple of years ago, I think now. They really do go a long way. So let's get started. So for this one, I'm using the Let's Resin UV. It's a whopping big bottle. I'm waiting for some smaller ones to arrive. I have found, I did have a smaller bottle, and I have found sometimes when you pour this one into the smaller bottles, because they're different batch numbers, you can end up with a streaky effect sometimes. So I discarded the smaller bottle that I had left. So I'm just, does the same thing, just pouring it from a bigger bottle. So I'm just filling up this oval cavity from my big cabochon mold. And then I'm going to just let that sit for any bubbles to rise so I can pop those. But now I'm just going to mix up these two colors. So I've got two small mixing cups, don't need lots. I'm just going to pour some resin into each cup. So what we're going to be doing is adding each color to each pot. Now the thing is with resin, most of you already know, but for any beginners, if I was to drop this straight into my resin that's there, you're not going to see it for a start. But imagine if you could. It wouldn't sink, it would stay, you know, it would stay afloat. It wouldn't really do anything. The moment you start adding anything to resin, it starts to make it heavier. So less is best. Otherwise, it's going to sink too fast and potentially blob, and you're not going to get the correct effect. Now, bear with me, I'm just using the end of my scissors as a scoop. I'm just going to take some of this red. It's like a reddy, pinky, purple. I don't know. It is what it is. You see, I'm not adding much at all. And then I'm just going to thoroughly mix that in, and you'll start to see that colour coming through. And I'm going to mix it until there's no bits and it's completely bit free. And just a really nice colour. Now you could do this with interference powders. You can do this with a lot of different powders. You could do it also with pigments as well. It's up to you. But this effect with these Aurora powders, I hate that word, I always say it wrong. It's really stunning. So I'm going to do the same with the purple. So there is the purple, there is the pinky red. Okay, so I just place some black card under my mold so you can see better. So I'm going to follow the exact formation that I did in my little play around. So I'm going to start with the purple, and what we're going to do is add 6 drops of the purple straight down the middle. 3, 4, 5, 6. And then either side we're going to drop 5. 1, 2, 3. You counting with me? And then again on the other side, just going to copy that design. Doesn't matter about the droplet size, don't have to be the same. So this purple is already beginning to sink into the resin. Not too much, because we didn't add much powder. Now, just to the sides, the very sides, what I then did was dropped 3. Again, we're going to mimic that over the other side. 2, 3. And then we are going to change colors. We're going to go for the reddy pink, whatever color it is. You'll see as well that they're starting to pull in a little bit. Don't worry about that. It's absolutely fine. So in between each color now, we're just going to drop the secondary color. Now you can chop and change this around with different colors, different combinations, entirely up to you how you want to do it. But you should just be able to follow this pattern, and hopefully, if it works for me, this is only the second time doing this, you should be able to reproduce it. And there's also a pattern with the stirring, which you'll see in a moment. Now, the longer I leave it, the more 3D this is going to be. So they're just starting to sink below the surface. But I don't want them too far down. So what I'm going to do now is begin to do my stir. Now for the stir, all I did was just using a pin. I went down this column. You can see it's pulling those pigments. Go up this column. Lock my focus, that would help. Down the next column. I'm not touching them. I'm just going in the negative space in between and up that one. And I'm just going to repeat that a few times just to really pull them into like a flame-like design. You can see the formation beginning to work. I think one last go. Down, up, down, up. Then what I did with these tails is I just flicked them. But it doesn't really need a flick here because there is quite a nice sharp point. I don't mean flick it as in actually flick it. What I mean is by taking the pin, just inserting it and just pulling it out slightly. See, it creates that really nice kind of flick. I'm not going to do it on that top part. Now I'm just going to pop that under the beast and cure it for 2 minutes. Now that has cured, we can pop that out and we are just going to back it with, surprise, surprise, a black background. I've already got some black mixed up, some black mica powder in my UV resin. You've seen me do this lots on the channel, but for anyone who's beginning and not seen it, just going to coat the back. You can see just how translucent that is. I tend to go darker. I tend to go with more mica powder, but I have a very powerful lamp. So if you haven't, you're better off going with a couple of layers to darken up that back. So you apply the first layer, get it all the way to the edges, cure it, and then just do it again until it's as dark as you want it to be. So you can see the UV light will be able to penetrate and cure that. If there's too much, it could ripple where the surface is curing, but the light can't penetrate through enough. So you're left with a gooey, uncured resin underneath, and the surface will just begin to ripple up and it will become an absolute mess. Always less is best, because it's much easier this way to layer it than it is to mess up and try and remove all that and clean up and start again. So the next stage is optional. My mold is quite heavily used, it's quite dull, it's lost its shine. I'm going to dip mine. And this also helps if you're using hardware like this, because UV resin can shrink. And what can happen is that you're left with a kind of gap around the piece. Try not to show it yet. And by dipping it, it increases the size, so it will fit better in something like that. So just using some wet P600 sandpaper, I'm going to just sand over the whole front of the piece until it's completely matte. Out comes the stick. Drop of UV resin on there to begin with, and then cure the stick onto the back like so. Can let go of that stick now. So just reinforce that until it's strong enough to be able to pick up and turn it without the worry of it falling off into your pot of UV resin. So I'm going to reinforce that with just a drop more. There we go. I'm happy that's not going to fall off as I'm dipping it. I can turn that under my lamp to cure it. Once I've dipped it, absolutely fine. As always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks, and to all my subscribers. Again, I absolutely love doing this. There's something about dipping a matte piece into clear UV resin and pulling it out and seeing the magic. It's so satisfying to watch. And this is just normal. This is the Let's Resin UV resin, just in a black pot so the sun can't penetrate through and cure it. So I can now just take my piece and just insert it into the resin. Now watch this. That is insane. The colors are incredible. So I'm just going to dip that, make sure the back and the front is fully covered. I'm loving this effect, guys. I'm so happy I could do this again for you, and you can copy this. So I let the excess drip off, make sure the whole piece is covered, as I said, and I can rest my stick on the side of this pot. I may not be able to find the exact pots in the US, but I'll try and find an alternative. And then I can just slowly begin to allow the excess to drip off for about a minute. And just keep an eye on the surface. Light is your best friend with stuff like this, because you don't want to see things that are known as fish eyes, where the resin begins to separate on the surface. That could be due to the smallest piece of oil or something on your glove where you may have touched it before dipping it. It can be a big problem, but you can always just try and cover it up again by re-dipping it. That is incredible. And again, before I go touching this, I'd recommend doing this if you dip your pieces. I do it every time. Just pop it in some tap water and just give it another minute. I need more water in there, but should be fine. Just give it another minute under your lamp just to remove any tackiness from oxygen inhibition. And again, after taking it out of the water, I do not want to touch it with these tacky gloves, because that is also going to imprint on the surface of my piece. I want this to be perfect. So I'm going to place it down, face up, change my gloves. And just using some paper towel and just dabbing any excess droplets off. And to remove the stick, just give it a twist till it snaps. You're left with a small ridge, just file that down until it's flat, so that you're not going to have any issues with that bonding with your glue. See how that is at the moment, it's not going to go flat, so that needs to be filed down. Or you could just use your rotary tool, much quicker, but again, outside, mask up. Right, we're all done. As always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment. If you haven't subbed, hit that button for me, it is free. Guys, I have to say, please interact with the video. You know, help me out with these things, because there's been a few videos recently where people have just not even bothered to give a thumbs reaction, even if it's a down thumbs. I couldn't care, I've said that before. Just any kind of reaction with the video. I give you this stuff for free. It's not hard. Come on guys, help me out, help the channel keep going. Yeah, here is the one that I made the other day. It is absolutely incredible. You see that really nice flick at the top there, and I love the way that the reddy pink, whatever it is, meets the blue there. It's absolutely stunning. But did we get the same effect twice? Here is the one that we have just made. It's going to look different. It's never going to be exactly the same, but it's there. See what it's like the other way. I could have done with a stronger black coating on that, because you can just see the back of the bezel, but I can always do that afterwards. It's not a problem. I'm really happy that I've managed to do it twice. Okay, it's not exactly the same, but it's not going to be, is it? It's never going to happen. Well, I don't know. The more you try, it might do. But just play around with different colours, I think. It's so stunning when you tip it in different lights. It's got so much depth and colour. It's absolutely incredible. Here's the other one from side to side. The purple has like a blue hint to it in different lights. There you go. The Ethereal Flame. Hope you enjoyed that one. I will see you for the next one. And yeah, you could do this on any different size scale you want, but the magnification of the shape of the cabochon really does help. Anything flat, you're not really going to get that, but you could always dome it. But yeah, I'll see you for the next one. Bye for now.